down and you have those days where you don't believe as much and things aren't working out, how do you get out of it?
A few things. Number one, I try to stop and take a breath, think about the overall situation and how I got to where I am and what I could possibly do to get out of it or to improve. Number two, I write down my gratitude. I mostly do this every day, and that's to write down the things that I'm grateful for. And it reminds me that no matter how hard or bad things are, there are always things that I can be grateful for and always good things in my life. And then the last and probably the biggest thing I would say is just talking to other people. And if I get in my own head and feel like, oh, I'm not making enough progress, but I share some of the things I'm doing, they can easily come and say, well, no, Andy, actually look at all these things you've accomplished. Look at how far you've come, and kind of remind me of that and give me more perspective, because we lose sight of that sometimes, especially if we're really ambitious and things are not going as fast as maybe we'd want them to. And that always helps.
When you get down and
all right, guys, bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulullah. So, alhamdulillah, one of the things, inshallah ta'ala, I would like to eventually do is get more into career coaching or job coaching or even staffing. And in my experience of having spoken with a few brothers in this field, and even my own dilemmas and trials that I've faced in trying to land a job, it's actually it's not an easy process. Looking for a job is it's like a full-time job, right, in the event itself. But I do want to share a couple things, and that video that you just saw on LinkedIn kind of inspired me to make this. So, first of all, I'll share a quick story with you. When I was younger, my father made me hand out like 50 to 100 resumes when I was like 15 or 16 years old. 50 to 100 resumes. Just go from store to store, retailer to retailer, restaurant to restaurant. Just hand out 50 to 60 resumes, right? I can't remember exactly what the number was, but I just had this stacked resumes and whatever. May Allah have mercy on all of our parents. Now, I don't know if he knew this at the time or not, but right, that's not the best way to apply for jobs. However, I am very, 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 very thankful that he did that, alhamdulillah. Why? Because it helped me develop another skill, which was speaking to people, right? The confidence of asking for the manager and networking, okay? And so very quickly, it took me a lot of resumes, but I learned when you walk into a store with a stack of resumes and you give people the impression that you're just looking for anything, they're not interested in hiring you. It's better to have a focus. Now, interestingly enough, many years later in my life, I ended up forgetting this lesson, and I was back in a rut. I was like, okay, where do I go in my career and whatnot? And do I go into teaching and education, or do I go into sales and marketing? Do I combine the two? Inshallah ta'ala. So, I got back into that rut, and so I had this CV, had this resume, and I was like, I got the experience. Why can't I find the right job? And then a recruiter gave me some feedback. They're like, a Muslim brother, actually, mashallah. He's like, it looks like you're unfocused. You have to develop another CV, and you yourself have to know what kind of job you're looking for. Have one or two options. So it could be a sales and marketing role, or it could be something related to sales and marketing. Okay, so you have to have those focuses. And when the recruiter reads your LinkedIn profile or your CV, they have to feel like, okay, this person is looking for this type of job. So that's one thing, feedback that I give to brothers who are looking for jobs. Another thing that I want to mention is, okay, when you're applying for jobs, another thing I used to do, I remember, is just like, I'd be like, I applied for like 50 jobs on LinkedIn, how come I'm not getting responses back? Or I've applied for all these 10, 20 jobs. Well, just put yourself in the hiring manager or recruiter's position, right? And a lot of people don't know this, but like, sometimes these companies are just putting a job out there, A, to collect CVs, right? B, they want data. Sometimes they're not even looking at your CV. Sometimes, there's just 100 different reasons. And so if and it's true what they say, if I'm not mistaken, wallahu alam, that most jobs that are out there are not even advertised. So when you're applying for a job online, you see something you like, call the company, find out who the hiring manager is, go to the people in the company in LinkedIn and try to find out who you should be emailing, calling, right? Have a follow-up plan. So you kind of want to laser focus. If you're applying for like 10 jobs a day, that's not a good thing. You want to apply for like, 1, 2, 3 jobs maybe every day, and having personalized messages to those hiring managers and companies. You don't have to make it tremendously long, but just make sure it looks personalized and not like a salesy, professional, automated spam message, copy and paste message. Don't do that. And last but not least, of course, there's a lot of resources I could leave you with. I don't know if this is something that you guys are interested in me having do like a short webinar on how to get a job. There's you know what, a lot of times, if you think about this, there are a lot of qualified people out there who are able to do a particular job, but the problem is sometimes they don't market themselves properly. They don't network. So it's like a product doesn't sell itself. This is sometimes a misconception. Imagine you have a great phone out there. It's better than the Apple phone. It's better than all the Android phones. But if we don't know about that phone, then we can't look at purchasing it. So likewise, the same thing here is that you have to put yourself out there in a way and market yourself on LinkedIn and CVs, and have like a one-page CV. You don't need more than one page. In today's day and age, everything is very fast. People are just going to look at your CV for like, maximum a couple seconds, or like maximum a minute, or, just a few seconds. They're just going to glance at it, right? They really want to talk to you, right? And that's what you should be focusing on, is getting either informal interviews, casual interviews, or even formal interviews, and saying, you know what, I want to learn about this job more. I have some questions. What do you think if we just hop on a call for 15 minutes and put yourself in that person's shoes? If you kind of look at them as a mentor, or the person that's hiring you, or as a colleague, as a friend, you're impressed by their LinkedIn, you want to learn more about them, that excites them to want to talk to you more, versus you just kind of demanding and saying it's my right to have an interview. So there's a lot of, everybody has, I believe, different issues in their job search. Sometimes, again, they need to develop the skill first before. So a lot of the times we just look at it, okay, from A to Z process. Okay, how do I get the job? But sometimes that's not the question you should be focusing on. The question might be, how do you land more interviews? How do you make yourself more marketable? Which types of jobs should you be focusing on? Okay, and there's nothing wrong, by the way, if you studied philosophy or mathematics or engineering school and you're looking for a different career, there's nothing wrong with that. Just to let you know, I mean, I think 50% of people who are out in the workforce right now, you can look up the stats. I'm just making up but it's a huge number. Most people who are working in certain positions right now, they do not come from that particular background. They're working in fields that are not the field that they studied in or have an experience. So there's actually stats written on this about how people change their industries every 5 or 10 years or something like that. They change their roles, right? So look into that, inshallah ta'ala. So in terms of resources, number one, obviously make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Rabbul Alameen. I remember one of the mashayikh, he was like talking about, if you are in a situation where you do not have to beg for your rizq, I mean, and you're trying to go out there, search for your rizq, your halal rizq, inshallah ta'ala, that can be a deed for the sake of Allah. You're trying to provide for your family. So remember that the upper hand is better than the lower hand, and that, like, if this is not sometimes learning the skill takes longer than finding a job, so let's humble ourselves, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, say, okay, you know what, these are the things I need to learn, right? And I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm also not saying finding a job is impossible and very difficult as people make it out to be. To be honest with you, sometimes, again, you have to focus on developing a certain skill more than you actually need to look for a job, if that makes sense. Okay. The second thing is, Andrew Lasavita is a very good YouTube channel that I refer to sometimes. Andrew, last name Lasavita, Lacivita. He's got a lot of good content on there. He may not like me saying this, but he does have paid programs. But in my opinion, he's got enough free content on there where you don't need to pay for it. But if somebody has the money and wants to pay for it, they're by all means, they're welcome to do so. Sometimes that can actually be beneficial. But In my opinion, if you are disciplined, if you can watch his videos every day, it'll get you in that mindset, and you'll pick up some things from him on job searching. And I think last but not least, obviously LinkedIn and talking to people is a good resource. But just to comment on one of these, what this gentleman said here, try to look for positive people to talk to, and that doesn't mean me, because sometimes I'm not always positive, and it doesn't mean and try to find people who know a little bit of what they're talking about. So don't talk to negative people, and don't talk to people who like to answer every single question that comes to them. Make sure you talk to people who are positive, who maybe it might be familiar with your field a little bit, and generally want to help, inshallah ta'ala, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't have any hasad or ill feelings and that kind of thing. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our clean our hearts. And one last thing, inshallah ta'ala, for those of you who are in dawah or Islamic work, again, I want to make a proper video on this topic, but I've seen a lot of barakah come to the du'at and the mashayikh who do not primarily rely on their source of income from the community and donations and fundraising. I am not issuing a fatwa here. I want to be absolutely clear. In fact, I have good friends and mashayikh and teachers who are in counseling, Islamic counseling positions, or they work as Islamic workers, or and they are paid by the community and message or whatnot. And alhamdulillah, their salaries are like, it's not like I think there's transparency. There's a board, there's a shura board, so things go through approval and all that stuff. So there's barakah in their work without a doubt. But what I'm just trying to tell everyone, this is my message, is that always have a backup, right? At least. Yes, me personally, I prefer not to mix the two. I prefer to keep my dawah and Islamic work separate. And I know that's not related to this video, but I do feel like it's an important point. There can be a lot of barakah, especially when you do something for free. I know it's, again, some people don't like that, but there's just a lot of barakah in that, I believe. And again, this is a topic I could talk about for a long time. And I agree. I admit it's not for everybody. In fact, again, I have friends and mashayikh and teachers and du'at who I learn from, and they're community members, mashallah, tabarakallah, and they're doing an excellent, amazing job. However, again, for those students of knowledge who are coming back from overseas, I think the better model, given what you now hear about now with the masajid now, Islamic organizations, the politics, sometimes the control that they want to have over what you do, what you teach, the projects that you invest your time with, who you affiliate with, it's better to keep your Islamic work and career separate. Now you can find jobs working from home, even part-time to a degree, that make a decent income. After 5-10 years, you can open up your own consultancy. You can have a steady amount of income, 60 to 80 to $100,000 a year. You can have that kind of income, and even full-time. It's not impossible, right? You're working, honestly, even people who are paid full-time 40 hours a week don't actually work 40 hours a week. They work more like 20, right? 20 to 30 or less. So my point here is that even if you're not of this opinion, it's still better. I still always recommend getting a trade, learning a skill. So go and learn a little bit about business, get a business diploma or a certificate in something, or learn an IT skill, or learn some kind of project management, product marketing, IT, engineering, medicine, healthcare, whatever it is, and look back at learn from the early Islamic scholars. If I'm not mistaken, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, they both had worked, and so it's actually, trust me, I think there's more barakah if there's anything like that. If there's anything to say about this topic, wallahu alam, I feel sometimes, not all the time, but I would say it's less riskier than to just, it's more riskier than to just rely on the community or a masjid or Islamic organization for your salary, because once you lose that job, it's very difficult to go to another organization, and there's a lot of conflicts of interest that can come up. So of course, I've spoken to scholars and ulama about this, and shuyukh and du'at and imams, and yeah, I know it's not haram, but what I'm saying is, hope everyone understands me. May Allah forgive me if I said anything incorrect. Please advise me if I did. But do not rely on a masjid or Islamic organization for your income or community donations, right? Better to become an entrepreneur or open your own business, or work for a corporation if you need to. And then, 10 years down the line, open up your own business, whatever, inshallah, right? So I think that there's more barakah in that. Wallahu alam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.